Some damned foolish thing in the Balkans could initiate a widespread European conflict. And yes, folks, what I've said, it is said by the German or former German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck in the early 1888. There we go. So yeah, folks, the reason why I read that because we are in the final act of World War I, the Seminal tragedy, the extra history. So if you don't know, or if you forgot, in the last video, extra history talked about the July crisis, and where before the July crisis happened, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, Serbia, and Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, right? Yeah, in Sarajevo, Serbia. And after the assassination in July 5th, 1914, Austria wanted war. So what they did before going to war, there was this crisis that happened in July before World War I happened, where first they consulted with their stronger ally Germany if what their plans are, and the Kaiser Wilhelm II told them, we're gonna back you and we're gonna support this war, but do it quickly, because while the whole world are still mourning about this tragedy, they wouldn't do anything, or let's say they will try not to act very quickly. If you act quick, I'm sorry if my English isn't good, because it's been a while since I've recorded the video. Okay, and after that, it's not really just straight up like they declared war. No, there was still debate. There was still let's say division. If war is necessary. For example, I forgot who. There we go. The Hungarian part of their empire initially objects to war and more leans toward more peaceful ways to solve this problem, but there is no one. The voice for them is gone. It's Franz Ferdinand. So after that, they made an ultimatum to Serbia I'm trying to remember. I just watched the video earlier, and I know this is a long intro, but I really want to do this because it's been a while since I've recorded. And after that, they sent an ultimatum, and two people that saw this coming, an Austrian ambassador and a Russian ambassador. So it was good. They wanted a peaceful solution, but then in a meeting, the Russian ambassador suffered from a heart attack, and people were saying that the Austrian ambassador poisoned, assassinated the Russian ambassador, and yeah, because of that, nothing even got signed. Any peaceful matter, nothing got signed, and because of that, we go to a person, the foreign minister, Sergei Sazonov, where when he read the ultimatum that the Austrians sent to speak, but he asked the Austrians to give the Serbs more time, then he was pushing the Austrians not to back down. And while he's doing this, he's trying to partially telling them to partially mobilize near the Austrian border because war is inevitable. But then Portales, the German, was he a German ambassador? He negotiated with Sazanov in a few parts here, and but then Sazanov said, if Austria-Hungary swallows Serbia, we will go to war. Now, I mean, if annexation happens, they'll declare war. But even if no annexation is gonna happen, there will still be war gonna happen. And I'm very, very sorry for a long intro, and if you want to skip, just skip, okay? Just skip and try to the part where the video starts. I'm very, very sorry because it's been a while. I'm trying to refresh. I know I've started 7 minutes, my goodness. So yeah, folks, I am sorry, okay? It's been a while, and I'm trying to, refresh something in my mind, and I'm trying to be more informative in my. Is that the right word? Informative? What is it? Informative. There we go. Okay, now it's starting. I'm just gonna try to cut this video, like making it. You'll reduce the intro because it took me 8 minutes. I'm very, very sorry. But if you want me to be more informative in the intro, just comment it down below, okay? Or you can just probably, what was that? You can just probably try skipping that part. So yeah, folks, here we go. World War I, the Seminal Tragedy, the final act by Extra History. This is the last part. Let's go.
The 24th of July, 1914. It's late at night. A group of haggard-looking men sit in a dim room in the ministry in Belgrade. One of them holds the Austrian ultimatum in his hands.
Belgrade.
They've spent the day debating how to reply. Defeated, they are about to give in to all demands. A notice slipped under the door. It says that the Russians have started to mobilize. They change their reply, and the final act begins. In their reply, the Serbians agree to 9 out of 10 Austrian demands. They only refuse to allow Austrian officials to have police powers within Serbia. But their reply is a masterstroke, an act of genius in the way it concludes. For at the end, it says that if the Austrians don't find their terms to be fair, the Serbians are more than willing to submit to the resolution of a conference. But if you'll remember, the Austrians hate conferences. They are always getting outvoted at those things. Well, no more, not this time. They are livid at the Serbian reply, but like always, they turn to their German allies for advice. The Kaiser is still at sea, so Austria's foreign minister Berthold goes to consult Bethmann-Hollweg and Moltke, the head of the German army.
Moltke.
They're apoplectic. They say, what, you haven't declared war already? A month has gone by, get on with it. This isn't what we agreed to. We're losing the sympathies of the people of Europe. You see, after the assassination of the Archduke, public opinion in Europe weighed heavily against Serbia. It was politically impossible for anybody to support them then. But now a month has passed, and this reply, this meeting of most of the Austrian demands, and this offer for mediation made the Serbs seem like the reasonable party. After all, what more could Austria want?
Yeah, okay, now it makes sense, because Germans, remember in the July crisis part, they said, do it quickly and be quick, because so that the moral stance is on your side, like you're the better side to be in. But now he took way longer, and now the Serbs made some adjustments and made themselves be more the moral side. I'm just gonna call it moral side. Now it's gonna be hard if you're gonna declare war. Now you'll be looked at by the whole world as the aggressors. So yeah, that was, I don't know what's in that part of the Austrians.
So, with the rebukes of the Germans driving him, Berthold returns to Austria-Hungary and for the first time speaks with Konrad von Hötzendorf, the chief of staff of the Austrian army. He too is apoplectic. What, declare war? Are you kidding me? You needed to tell us weeks ago if that's what you wanted to do. The Austrian army won't be ready for war until the 14th of August, weeks from now. Plus, we don't even know who we're mobilizing against. You want us to prepare for war with Serbia? Yeah, not when Russia's mobilized against us, we aren't. Get us a guarantee of Russian neutrality, and then maybe we can talk about mobilizing against the Serbs. Despondent, pressured toward war by the Germans, told that Austria isn't ready by his own chief of staff, Berthold returns home and begins to think. As the hours grow later, he starts to convince himself. There's a way out of this. He starts to reason that declaring war isn't necessarily the same as being at war, and so maybe if he declares war now, he'll placate the Germans and be able to use that threat to get the Serbs to capitulate before he even needs the Austrian army to be ready to fight.
Okay.
Now, we can all see this for the desperate rationalization that it is. We've all at one time or another gotten ourselves into an impossible situation and let ourselves believe in some wild, harebrained solution that'll surely fix everything. Only when we do that, the fate of the world isn't usually hanging in a balance. And so, on the 20th...
Yeah, it's like a 50-50. That's me. That's me right now. Like, I have a freaking research deadline tomorrow. Then I have another research deadline in May 29. So it's like this, but mine is just about school. But this is like the fate of the world is in balance. Okay.
28th of July, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, with Berthold all the while believing he's going to bring peace by declaring war.
That's pretty dumb.
But that morning,
actually.
the morning of the 28th, Kaiser Wilhelm II got back to Potsdam. That very morning, the Kaiser read the Serbian response to the Austrian ultimatum and uttered, "With this, every reason for war drops away." And here is one of the great tragedies of those frantic July days leading to the war. This man, Wilhelm II, for all his inadequacies, for all his failings, for once in his life steps up and tries to become the man he should be, the man who deserves to rule the most powerful nation in the world. And he comes so close. And yet, despite his best attempt, he's too late. The world doesn't reward his effort, things spiral into chaos, war comes, and his empire will fall. The Kaiser tries to open peace talks, perhaps even hold a conference, but the Austrians will have none of it. So he proposes a novel solution: halt in Belgrade. Belgrade, the Serbian capital, is just a few miles from the Austrian border. If the Austrian army occupies the capital, they can declare victory and save face while showing the rest of Europe that they don't plan to annex Serbia. And they can do it quickly enough to perhaps keep the Russians out of the war. But this proposal has to go through Bethmann, and Bethmann's in Berlin. Now get this, it's 1914, so as impossible as it seems, there was no telephone line between Berlin and Potsdam, so Bethmann can't reply directly. He's pretty skeptical of the halt in Belgrade plan, but instead of making the drive to Potsdam for clarification, he passes it along to German agents in Austria with the instructions not to press the Austrians too hard to adopt it, and he doesn't even mention that it comes from the Kaiser himself. Meanwhile, in Russia, Sazonov gets reports of Austrians shelling Belgrade. These reports are false, of course. The Austrian army won't be ready to do anything until August 14th, but he has no way of knowing that. So he, one of the last men opposed to full Russian mobilization, lets the dam break and declares himself for a full mobilization of the Russian army. He and the Russian chief of staff, Yanushkevich, go to see the Tsar and convince him that the time has come. General mobilization is ordered. Night falls. It's 1 a.m., and the Tsar can't sleep. He sends a telegram to the Kaiser of Germany, and it reads thus: "Am glad you're back. In this serious moment, I appeal to you to help me. An ignoble war has been declared to a weak country. The indignation in Russia shared fully by me is enormous. I foresee that very soon I shall be overwhelmed by the pressure forced upon me and be forced to take extreme measures which will lead to war. To try and avoid such a calamity as a European war, I beg you in the name of our old friendship to do what you can to stop your allies from going too far. Nicky." Now you have to remember that these two men were cousins.
Yeah,
they were friends. All the avenues of diplomacy had failed. All the standard bureaucracy.
Yeah, the diplomacies failed, peace talks failed. So many failed. Like, wow. I'm very, very sorry, but this is just new to me. Like, I know I've been learning history, but I've been very, very busy, and I'm just overwhelmed right now. So this is just Austria, and for them to just declare war and thinking that Serbia would just easily back down. No, Serbia is in this war was great. was good until a Bulgaria joined, and they got overwhelmed by the armies. And if you want to react to a series about World War One with me as a commentator, you can check out my series about World War One. It's actually a playlist, so maybe I'll try to put over here. So yeah, folks, let's get back.
Democratic mechanisms of the state were driving them to war, so they reached out to one another as cousins and as friends to see if the two of them dealing directly person to person could avoid this war. And in a touch that could only come from these twilight days of empire, did they not refer to each other as Tsar or Kaiser. They don't even refer to each other as Wilhelm and Nicholas, but rather as Willie and Nicky.
It's because,
The Kaiser is awake too, and he responds. A flurry of telegrams get sent back and forth. At the end of these correspondences, Nicholas picks up the phone, calls Yanushkevich, and tells him to call off the general mobilization. Yanushkevich splutters and starts to reel off all the things that canceling mobilization means they're gonna have to do, but the Tsar says, cancel it, and hangs up the phone. On the morning of the 30th, Sazonov hears what the Tsar has done. He's shocked. He pulls in the head of the Duma, the Russian parliament, and the patriarch of the Orthodox Church, and they go in for a knockdown, drag-out meeting with the Tsar. The room is crowded, it's hot, talks are getting nowhere, and then Nicholas moves off alone, staring out the window at St. Petersburg, trying to think. After a few minutes of reflection, coming to no conclusion, a young man, an aide-de-camp, standing near the Tsar, says, "Majesty, we know how difficult it must be for you to decide." Without intention, these words cut. Nicholas had always been called a weak, indecisive, feckless leader, and he hated it. He wanted to shake off all those names people had been calling him for so many years.
Yeah, this is like before. Okay, this is like before the Russian Revolution, and we all know that this war led to the Russian Empire's collapse and the introduction of the Soviet Union. But we'll see that in a few years later. Because if you don't know who this is like Rasputin, right? This is Rasputin, someone who were friends with this. I'm just gonna call it friends because that's what I've heard, like in videos. Friends with the Kaiser and his wife, and yeah, Nicholas is not really a good leader. Because he wasn't really prepared to be a leader. So yeah, I didn't know, but I have to learn more about the Russian Empire if I'm going to try to explain any information to y'all like in this video. So let's go again.
He wanted to show the world he wasn't some wishy-washy prince who couldn't make up his mind. And so, like that, with the words of some aide-de-camp whose name history has forgotten, Nicholas turns around and says, "I will sign the order." Back in Germany, Bethmann's finally come around. They're starting to make progress with the Austrians on the halt in Belgrade plan. The British have even said that this plan has their support. But Berthold won't accept it. Can't accept it unless the Russians agree to halt their mobilization. And here we hit the catch-22 of the First World War. This is the age of the train, the period where logistics and timetables dominated military thinking. All around Europe, it was thought that if you could just get your army to the battlefield while the other guy's forces were still arriving, you'd crush them every time. You'd win without contest. And as we've seen with the Austrians, mobilization can take weeks. It is a Herculean task to coordinate and move the millions of men that made up a modern army. And if Russia acquiesces and has her army stand down, they will be impossibly behind. If they stop mobilization, and then Austria or Germany decide to attack, they'll have lost the war without even a fight. So Russia cannot stop mobilization. But if Russia mobilizes, that means Germany has to mobilize too or face the same dilemma. And now with Germany mobilized, what can France do but mobilize themselves? After all, the Franco-Prussian War taught them a hard, bitter lesson about what happens when you get your army to the field too slowly.
Yeah, I am very excited to search for videos about the Franco-Prussian War because for me it's that I need to learn. Because it's very interesting for me. I've heard it multiple times, the Franco-Prussian War, but I haven't reacted or let's say watched a video about it. So yeah, folks, maybe in the future we might react to a video about the Franco-Prussian War. So yeah, maybe soon. I don't know, but that makes sense because if another country is mobilizing, then like your ally or your enemy is mobilizing, you should probably mobilize too. And if this country is mobilizing, then the other country will mobilize. It's like a domino effect, you know? Just almost like in the 1884 video that I've made, or let's say reacted to, made by Extra History, the year of revolutions. But it's not really like that. But we'll see, folks. We'll see. Comment down below any details about this. I'm still learning history. I don't consider myself as a historian yet. I'm just a history learner. Alright, let's go.
And they will not be making that mistake again. And so the dominoes start to fall. But there's one last attempt, one last try to stop that crushing chain of causality leading the world inexorably to war. Portales, the poor German diplomat playing a bit part in a tragedy that he has the desire but not the means to avert, has one last meeting with Sazonov. He says to Sazonov, call off the general mobilization. And Sazonov says no. Portales pleads, for God's sakes, there will be no winner in this war. If we fight, it'll be revolution. It will be the end of monarchy. It'll be the end of us both. Won't you please call off this madness? And Sazonov says, no. Portales drops to his knees and says, if you do this, it will be slaughter. I beg of you, in the name of all that is right and decent, call off this mobilization. And Sazonov says no. Then Portales rises to his feet and takes a piece of paper from his pocket and says, in that case, sir, I have the honor to inform you that we're at war. He's still struggling to collect himself, saying, never thought I'd be leaving Russia like this. I don't know how I'll be able to pack. Sazonov kindly offers to send somebody to help gather his things. And a month later, 1 million men are dead.
Oh wow. In that meeting, he just almost predicted World War I. Just for me. Because I love Extra History's videos because he's good. He is very, very good. But let's go back to Portales. He almost predicted World War I because the fall of monarchies that happened. The fall of the German Empire, the French, the monarchy in French, German Empire, the Austrian Empire, the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Those after World War I doesn't exist. Like after World War I, it was a very different world, and we all know after World War I, another conflict happened that caused so many lives died, and yeah, it's just brutal. Anyway, let's get back.
The Seminal catastrophe has begun.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead short days ago. We lived out dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields, in Flanders fields.
we need to end it there. That was an ending. My goodness. Actually, not gonna lie, I'm not gonna cut that part. You know, because it is just brutal that this war happened, and it's just a tragedy, a catastrophe. So yeah, folks, that was what an ending to a series this fantastic. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. And yeah, folks, I'll be seeing you soon, because actually my teacher just messaged, "Hi class, no virtual will be given today. Please make the fruitful day by writing your research paper." Oh, that was good. Thank you, sir. You just made my day. Okay, not gonna lie, that part in the end got me kind of emotional, because number one, how the photos he showed, like, oh my, like, I imagined it, knowing that I'm a male, like and I'm like almost at the age of 18. What if another catastrophe happens, like that big? Like, you see this war in Ukraine right now, and me thinking, the world right now is boiling, and I don't know what's gonna happen, and I just don't want anything, or let's say a war will happen in the future, because if that's gonna happen and this country will go down to it, I don't know. I just don't know what's gonna happen. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for videos like this. Goodbye. See you in the next video.